sometimes I plan it well. So I looked at the calendar for this week and I said, oh, wow, hey, there's this big event happening in the United States. There is an election. And
Mhm.
sometimes I try to align our topics with what's actually happening in the real world. So I thought it'd be great to have a topic. And of course, we don't even know the results of the election. And there are these questions being raised. So I thought it'd be awesome to have a presentation on the topic of cybersecurity. So a little bit about our guest speaker today. He is a security researcher and engineer who focuses on the design and development of secure technology or cybersecurity. He's worked in numerous research groups in both academia and industry, and his projects and his work have spanned such areas as cloud security, internet scanning, and machine learning. Uh, in some ways very important to us, or maybe perhaps most important to us. He has a Bachelor of Science in Computer Engineering and a Master's in Cybersecurity from Drexel University, where he was one of the student leaders of Cyber Dragons, the student organization for cybersecurity, competing in competitions, advocating for good cybersecurity practices. I'm sure he'll tell you a little bit more about it. And he asked me to remind you that he was exactly where you are about less than a decade ago. So, joining us all the way from London, UK, please welcome Dagmawi Mulugeta.
Awesome. Thank you very much for that awesome introduction, Dr. Kim. So let me share my screen and let me say that you making that introduction took me way back to Drexel and great times. Love it. Thank you for that. Cool. All right. Thanks. It's a pleasure to be here. I hope everyone is staying safe during these challenging times, and I hope everyone is excited to learn a little bit about cybersecurity. So let me start by introducing myself, and obviously I can't top Dr. Kim, but my name is Dagmawi Mulugeta. I am currently a threat research engineer at Netscope. We focus primarily on improving cloud security at Netscope. Before that, I was a backend engineer at Cyrisk, and here we focused on cyber risk and internet security, primarily how to detect misconfigurations and give useful feedback there. And before that role, I was a master's student at Drexel ECE, primarily doing research. And before I was a master's student, I was a bachelor's student in Drexel ECE, so right where you guys are at. And you can see a picture of me in Philadelphia, bottom right, a while ago when I was there. Cool. So what are we going to talk about? The outline of this discussion will be as follows, and we'll try to answer these questions in depth, right? By the end of this talk, I would like you guys to be able to answer these questions if they ever come up. Questions like, what exactly is cybersecurity, right? If you talk about cybersecurity, you have to talk about hacking. What exactly is hacking? What are some open challenges in cybersecurity? Where's the future of cybersecurity? Where is it going? And if you actually are interested, how can you get involved, right? So when we talk about what exactly is cybersecurity, we'll go through some definitions and go through some brief history with some cool milestones in cybersecurity, right? Get the feel for what happened in the past. We'll talk about hacking. We'll say, and I know Dr. Kim hates me using this word because hacking is actually a good term that people have used in a negative connotation here. But it's similar to what you see in the movies, except there's no cool background music. And then we'll maybe even go through a demo there and see what a real world attack looks like. And then we'll discuss some open challenges. Why is this field so challenging, right? Like, where is this making an impact right now? Why are the challenges so difficult? And then we'll talk about where is the future going, right? So where is this bus headed? And are there reasons that you should probably get on this bus if you're interested, right? And lastly, we'll talk about how you can get involved. And if this talk is interesting to you, then maybe it is a field for you. And I can give you some direction there because there's some real talent missing in this field. And I know that some smart engineers like you are definitely help make a dent there. This is a discussion. So Dr. Kim usually says, feel free to chime in and ask questions and I'll try to knock them out. And if I can, I'll get back to you for sure, right? So what exactly is cybersecurity? So this is the textbook definition for cybersecurity, right? It's the protection of computer systems and networks from theft of or damage to their hardware, software, electronic data, as well as from disruptions or misdirection of the services they provide. That's a mouthful. That's so dense. What does that mean? It's pretty long, right? A shorter definition that I like from Cisco says cybersecurity is the practice of protecting systems, networks, and programs from digital attacks. Yeah, that's nice, but still, what does that mean, right? Breaking it down, core concept is that computers are really dumb, right? They will do exactly what you tell them. They will not do more, right? You have to explicitly tell it to do things in a secure manner. And human beings are the ones telling them these things, right? So they will make mistakes. They will write bugs into code and make mistakes when they write the code, right? They will make mistakes when they configure these applications to protect their systems, right? And effectively make it useless, really, right? These mistakes can be identified and leveraged by anyone that wants to game the system. This fundamental concept of people being able to make mistakes and other people knowing this and leveraging it is why this field exists. That is the core idea of cybersecurity, right? So let's go back to the Cisco definition. What exactly are you protecting, right? You're protecting systems by applying these security policies to identify and fix misconfigurations. Things like, oh, I want to actually open up my computer to the internet. No, you don't want to do that. You should have a policy in place that prevents things like that, right? You want to protect your network from outside and unauthorized users. You want to make sure everybody's authenticated that needs to be in and it's authorized to do the things they want to do. And then you also want to protect these programs by patching publicly known issues. These vulnerabilities that come out, you want to make sure you're up to date. Your computer pops out and says, hey, I have an update. You want to quickly make sure that you're up to date and you have the latest security features, right? So let's go a little bit more in depth into that history of cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is a pretty eventful field, and there's a lot of cool things that happen all the time. But let's talk about some major ones here, right? In the 1970s, you see this field start to come about. They're mainly, kids in their basement, you see in the movies, right? In the 1970s, you see this guy, Bob Thomas, creates a program called the Creeper, right? And what it does is it traverses the early version of the internet called the ARPANET, and it prints the message, "On the Creeper, cache me if you can," on different terminals. And that's all it did. It didn't do anything malicious after that. This other fellow, Ray Tomlinson, who invented the email, tweaked the Creeper a little bit, but also he wrote this program called the Reaper that finds the Creeper and deletes it. So you see in the 1970s early ideas of malicious software, unwanted software, and then software that deletes this unwanted software come about, right? And then in the 80s, you see the game is getting a little bit more interesting. People are starting to use more technology, right? Military attacks are starting to happen. This guy named Marcus Hess, a Russian fellow, hacks 400 military computers, focusing on some places even in the Pentagon, right? So you start to see government starts to take notice because of this kind of stuff. And by far, one of the most interesting stories you'll hear is the story of Robert Morris, who was a graduate student at Berkeley that wanted to see how big the internet was. So he wrote a piece of code that traverses all the computers on the internet that have a vulnerability and can basically install itself, right? But he forgot to put code in that doesn't do it if it's already on the system. Like there's no if I'm already here, don't install it. So he basically orchestrated the first denial of service attack and almost brought down the internet, right? That's how easy it was to do that back in the day, back in 1988, right? And he became the first person to get charged under the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act in the US, right? And what's also interesting is his dad was the director of one of the directors of security for the NSA. So you really see the comings of a movie there, right? But he's doing well since it was earlier in the day. Computer laws were a little bit more lenient. So he only did a year, went back and finished his degree, and he's now at MIT, tenured professor at MIT. Right, and then you also see the first dedicated antivirus company start to come out. McAfee was the first one, and you start to see that kind of stuff come about in the 80s too. So 90s, this stuff is getting more a little bit more sophisticated, right? Still kind of the still jokestery type of malicious software, like the I love you malware that goes into your inbox, copies your contacts, sends I love you to all of them, and then once they open it, it goes into their contacts, copies their list of contacts, and sends out I love you messages to all of them too. So you see this kind of start to come about as around 1999, right? And you also see the explosion of simple AV scanners, antivirus scanners that basically have a database. Check your file to see if it's in that bad database, and if it's not, then it's okay. If it is, it's bad, right? In the 2000s, you see malware starting to get more and more sophisticated. A lot of malware authors out there that want to not necessarily make money off of this, but just to cause a little bit of damage here and there because it's interesting, right? And you see the first kind of serial data breach performed by Albert Gonzalez in 2005. And I believe he hacked TJ Maxx and downloaded a bunch of credit card information. And you start to see that, oh, this isn't, people annoying companies anymore, right? Like this is, people are starting to get PII and personal information from users, and they're using this to get monetary value. And people are, this is any place where you can make monetary value, people are going to just funnel in, right? 2010s, you see this area where a few people have a lot of expertise completely shift into government interest, right? State-sponsored attacks start coming in. Things like Stuxnet is discovered in 2010. Stuxnet, which is really interesting if you haven't heard of it, it's supposedly a collaboration between Israel and the US. Supposedly, it is US had information that Iran was weaponizing nuclear facilities, and they wanted to get a spy in there to stop it, right? So they wanted to target these Iranian centrifuges, and they wrote a piece of code. They wrote malware that would essentially go into the centrifuges. They made it spin just under the right amount to make the nuclear material. And on the controller side, the person that's actually there, seeing if the batches are okay, it would print a message that said, oh, everything's fine, no worries. But the actual what's happening there isn't reflected, right? And what's also interesting is how they got it into the system. They put it on a flash drive and left it outside the building, right? So this was an air-gapped building, right? There was no way for them to get through the network, so they put it on a flash drive and left it out, and someone took it in and plugged it into their system, and that's how that exploit happened. And you just think about that, if you see a flash drive at like at a campus event, or someone's like, oh, cool flash drive I just found on the street, like human nature is just plug it into your system, see what happens, right? But you should be wary of doing things like that. And then you see malwares, coming out more and more and more in the 2014, right? And you also see things like NotPetya come out. So Petya was specific type of malware called ransomware that would basically get on your system, encrypt everything and lock it, and say, if you want your things back, you have to pay us. And usually people pay and get their stuff back, usually, right? But NotPetya was not that. It was made to mimic Petya, but it was just targeted to cause damage. And it was supposedly attributed to Russian hackers, a Russian advanced persistent threat group. And it was targeted at Ukraine. And the total damage from this specific type of malware was $10 billion to the entire world, right? They targeted at Ukraine, let it loose. It basically almost put this huge shipping company called Maersk out of business, right? The only reason they're up today and they're not bankrupt is because they had an offline system in Ghana that was disconnected from the major network because of a power outage, right? That's a whole story in itself, right? But this was not, ransomware. This was purely destructive, and you start to see this type of thing come about. And present day ransomware is continuing to plague the internet. I don't know if you're up to date on cybersecurity news, but or any type of news really, you'll hear healthcare companies get hit by ransomware, banking companies get hit by ransomware too. So that's continuing to cause issues. Yeah, cool. So if you talk about cybersecurity, now that we've talked a little bit about the history, when you talk about cybersecurity, you have to talk about hacking, right? So what is hacking really? I kind of know it, like you've seen it in movies, like people typing and stuff, but what is happening? And that's what we're trying to answer here. So the definition is hacking refers to activities that seek to compromise digital devices, right? Computers, smartphones, tablets, and even entire networks. And it's essentially, if you remember from the first slide, I told you that people make mistakes when they write the code or they configure these devices, right? Hacking is the act of using those mistakes and gaining a little bit more than you already have. Whether if you're from the outside getting in, if you're from the inside and you have a low privilege access, you want to get high privilege access, right? And if you have high privilege access on a local system, you want to get access to everything on a system. This act of finding these weaknesses is essentially hacking. That's what it is, and that's a snippet from one of my favorite movies, The Matrix. And if you haven't seen this movie, homework assignment for the weekend, watch all three of them. Very good. But this is a scene where Trinity is trying to get into a power grid and trying to shut it down. And if you notice, she's actually like, that's not fake. She's actually doing the steps correctly. She's scanning a network. She's finding an open service that has issues, and she's leveraging a vulnerability to gain access to a system, right? And that's one of the reasons why I love this movie is its attention to details is really good. Cool. So what are the different types of hats, or what are the different types of hackers you see? So the black white hat naming convention actually came from old Western movies. And in these Western movies, you usually have the bad guy wears a black hat and the good guy would wear a white hat, right? And they took the spirit of that into hacking as well, where a black hat hacker, somebody that's malicious, that causes damage, gains value, classical sense. If you look at the picture, the black hat has like scary eyes, right? And you have on the opposite side, you have a white hat or ethical hacker, right? This guy identifies issues so that they can get fixed, right? So they're performing the same activities, except the end result is one is trying to break the system, the other is trying to make it better. And then you have gray hat in the middle. You can see his eyes are like, one is up, one is down, right? He's willing to break the rules to get to what he wants, right? But end result isn't malicious. It's not to cause destruction. It just won't follow the good rules that have been set up and white hats typically follow, right? And then you have a new kind of three new kind of fields: state-sponsored hackers. These are hackers that will hack in the interest of a nation, right? So the particular intent is to push a nation's interests forward. Nations, like we've seen it in almost most major players, right? Iran, Russia, Ukraine, the US, everyone has kind of this state-sponsored hacker group that's associated with them. And you also have hacktivists, and these guys usually form or usually hack in the form of activism, right? Defacing websites or doing things along those lines. And then you have my favorite, script kiddies. Script kiddies are basically people that are just starting out, and they basically just run pre-cooked scripts that have been made by other people, and kind of hoping to get lucky and get access to the system. Nothing that will nothing that will really no thought there. Any kind of monitored system really will find them. They're very noisy, and they have no real direction still. And I want to just take a moment to kind of emphasize that hacking really doesn't have to be malicious, right? The word has gained like a negative connotation, but it's just a fun activity. If you use it for good, the end result, and you do it in a controlled way, it can be a great thing. I've went on hacking competitions, and I know a lot of my friends are in ethical hacking fields, and if you do it for the right reasons, it's a great activity. So let me what I want to take a moment now is to actually show you what hacking looks like in the real world. And we will be using a open source code called CloudGoat. It's public on GitHub if you know what that is. And it's designed to get people familiar with cloud security, specifically cloud infrastructure security. And we will go through a specific scenario called the Cloud Breach S3 scenario. This is based on a real world attack, loosely based on a real world attack that happened at Capital One about a year ago, where some of their sensitive data was leaked by an Amazon employee that knew a vulnerability existed. It was pretty simple, right? And let's go through the demo. I just want to give you some background. We are hackers, and we know that Capital One, right, is a bank that holds a lot of sensitive information like social security numbers and credit card details. We also know some high profile users use Capital One, people like President Fry, right? So let's start by assessing their external infrastructure and see what we can find. I just want to point out this is a fictional scenario. We're not actually looking at Capital One, but these are the steps hackers typically follow to get there, right? So let me change my screen. And I think Dr. Kim, if you could send this link out for me, so the students can, if it's too blurry, they can follow along. So let's talk a little bit about what's happening here, right? So the tools that you see on the left side, this is a tool called Postman, and it's essentially a web browser, except it doesn't have the UI. It lets you look at the web transactions that are happening. And that's really all that's different between this and Chrome. As you can see here, right, that's the URL. I'm just interacting with it. And then on the right side, you have my terminal here. In this terminal, if you have a Mac, it's going to be actually named terminal. If you have a Windows, it's going to be named command prompt, and it's basically available on any computer that comes out, really. Right. So what are we going to do? We know that this proxy.private, that's a server that they use for communication. So we are going to poke at it and see what's there, right? So we see here when we click proxy.private, we see a result that says, hey, the server is configured to proxy requests. Please modify your host header. So we're like, oh, okay. We Google that around, spend a little bit of time researching, right? And we see that this field, host header, is what we can set. So what we're going to try to do here is we're going to set it to a specific endpoint, a specific IP address that we know gives us sensitive information. We know that that endpoint is private and it should only be accessible to people inside. So we're going to try and see if we can access it from the outside, right? And then we see the result is, oh, okay, here you go, right? And gives us back useful information, right? So let's see what we can do here. We will try to grab with that host header set. We are going to try and grab the username that we can log in. Do you have users on the system that I can use to get security information or secure information? And we get back this weird CG banking role with a unique IP address, with a unique string. We're like, okay, let's use that. Let's play around with that a little bit, right? And when we send a request there, bam, we get result, right? Access key and secret access key, which is basically a username and a password, right? And then we also even get a token that says, hey, I'm already logged in. Here you go. You can just keep going. This is great. This is info that we can use to get into the system to basically, so we were outside, now we're in, we can use this info to get a step further along, right? So we're going to use those credentials. And what we're trying to do next is see if we can get, we're going to try and see if we can get some, a list, basically the databases, right? We're trying to see, list all the storage disks that are available. If you have a Windows machine, it's like your C drive, your D drive, something like that. We're trying to see what else is, what is available there. And then we see in the first one, oh, that's card holder information. That's kind of interesting. Let's list all the files in there. That's what I want to do, right? And then when we list all the files, we see 3 card holder files ending in .csv. So .csv means comma separated values. So these are just files that should have readable text, comma separated, and in a comma separated type of way. And then we also see a PNG, which is an image, but that's not particularly interesting for a hacker, right? Unless it has a password in it, right? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna try and copy it down, right? Download it so we can see what's inside, right? And we're using these commands. You don't have to be familiar with these commands. These are Amazon commands to grab all the sensitive information, right? So we just tried to download it and we were successful. We had all the authenticated and authorized permissions, right? Cool. So what we're going to try to do here is we are going to try to print one line to see what kind of comma separated values are in this file, right? What's stored in here, right? And then we see we have social security numbers, and we have names, and we have emails, right? And we also have addresses, right? So this is called PII. This is personally identifiable information, and this is the kind of stuff you really want to protect if you're a company like Capital One. This is very bad information for a hacker to get, because what they're going to do is copy all of this, put it somewhere like Pastebin, and now all of your users have basically all their information leaked, right? They trusted you with it, and now it's online for hackers to see, right? So what we're going to try to do is see if anybody from Drexel has info here, right? And our suspicions were right. We have actually we have Dr. Kim's info here too. So maybe you want to take note of that, Dr. Kim, and reach out to Capital One now. And we also have President Fry in there too, and we have a few instances of that. So kind of all fun and play, but let me do this. It's always fun going out of a presentation, right? Cool. So let's talk a little bit about what just happened, right? So this was the intended usage, right? Our MacBook was supposed to send a request to this machine, and then that machine was supposed to securely access the data and give us back exactly what we're authorized to see, right? We're supposed to ask it a question, and then it's supposed to give us back answers if we are allowed to. But sadly, we can ask it any type of question. So we asked it, what are your access keys that you use to get access to your storage bucket here? And it said, oh, here they are. And they gave it back to us, right? Which was a huge problem. It shouldn't have done that. But since we had that, our attack scenario is, hey, give me those credentials. Great. I'm just going to grab it myself. No need for you anymore, right? And this stuff was supposed to be private. It was on the internet, and we were able to get that data, download it, and grab information that should have been sensitive and secured, right? And if you're interested, I have the YouTube link here too. Slides, I think, go out after. So if you're interested and want to come back, you have it. Want to point out, this was not Capital One. This is a controlled demonstration. Please do not attack a real world system, right? People will not like that very much. And if you do, don't say Dagmawi told you or Dagmawi showed you how, right? That will put me in a bad place. No, I'm just kidding. So now that we've talked about cybersecurity and we've talked about the history of it and we've talked about what hacking is, right? And talked about what hacking is, let's talk about what I do. What is my research been focused and what is it focused on now? Right. So my current role is I am a cloud threat research engineer at Netscope Threat Labs. I'm new to this. I started about a month ago. I just want to point out Netscope is a Gartner Magic Quadrant leader. Most of you don't know what Gartner is, but if you go into software or really any type of computing profession, you will know that name very well. Gartner is a company that decides which products are good and which products are not, right? And we are, Netscope is a leader in that space for cloud application security, or CASB, right? The challenge here is, and my team is focused on cloud application security, like I said, but how do you manage this for enterprises, huge enterprises that use Google Drive and Microsoft and personal instances of Google Drive and Instagram and Facebook Workplace and all these apps, right? You have information everywhere. How do you maintain all of this? Well, we help by integrating to all of these services and giving you one dashboard. So you can go in there, set your policies, say, I don't want anybody downloading from Google Drive from an unmanaged device. I don't want you on your personal machine trying to download this. No way. That kind of stuff, we can help you secure it, right? My specific area is user behavior. So what we kind of saw in the hacking demo is you have credentials, right? Sensitive credentials that help sensitive information. If you have those credentials, you have access to it. And if you don't, you don't, right? If someone has your username and your email, they can log in and see that kind of stuff. But how do you even prevent people that have these credentials from suddenly changing their mind and downloading a bunch of stuff, or deleting a bunch of stuff and going to a competitor, right? How do you solve that kind of stuff, right? So my area of research is basically around modeling people's normal behavior on a day-to-day, and then predicting or inferring when a person is about to do something malicious, right? Things like insider threat, which are huge now, right? We will kind of help mitigate that using our user behavior engine. Why cloud security? That's a great question, right? We found that 89% of enterprise users are in the cloud. That means in companies that you see on a day-to-day all around you, 89% of the users are using cloud apps, right? And 44% of threats are actually cloud-based. So what does that mean? Let's unpack that for a second. That means the things we're using as people, Google Drive, Google Docs, all the things we're using to collaborate to make stuff easier, attackers are using them because they make their lives easier too, right? They're sending out malicious links via Google Doc attachments, and you see it coming from Google Doc. You're saying, oh, okay, this is safe, and you click on it, and it installs malware on your system, right? You're seeing a lot of that happening with cloud apps, and that specific area is one that's really challenging because you want to trust Google Drive, but how do you trust people using Google Drive? That's a tough question, right? So in past roles, I have, and my research at Drexel University has kind of focused on incident prediction via public configurations. So companies typically have certain information about themselves on the internet, right? They'll have their main website, right? They'll have their main website on the internet. They'll have other remote RDP connections so people can work and log in and all that kind of stuff on the internet. So how do you use that information to predict whether a company is going to get breached, right? And we were able to design a framework that you can see on the top right that actually helps you solve these questions by looking at past breaches and saying, okay, these are the things that actually were bad. And we help companies predict this. But also, and this is where me and my master's thesis advisor kind of went into business with this company called Cyrisk, right? It helps a lot of businesses decide business partners. Before me and you go into business, I want to scan your network to make sure you don't have a vulnerability that can be exploited and used in my supply chain and basically ruin me and get me out of business, right? So that's the kind of research that we focus in. You know, Cyrus is a great company, is doing great. It has some big name customers, right? So it's pretty cool. A lot of cool stuff in there. Yeah. So what are some open challenges? How are we doing on time, Dr. Kim? I lost my timer here.
You're fine. We have about 10 minutes left in class, but
Okay.
and if we have a little time, I'd love to take some questions from the students.
Got you. Okay. All right. Awesome. So awesome challenge, open challenges, just to briefly go through them. Banking, right? Huge area right now. Direct access to money. How do you prevent that is still an open question. US elections, right? We're seeing a lot of in the threat labs, a lot of people trying to tamper with the election, kind of influence elections using cloud apps. We're seeing a lot of tampering with election equipment. It's kind of crazy, right? Healthcare security. How do you help people secure their healthcare stuff? Right? Your local dentist isn't going to have a great IT guy. How do you help them kind of secure stuff? Internet misconfigurations. People leave stuff on the internet all the time. Places like Shodan and Census, just like Google indexes web pages, they index stuff that's left on the internet, right? That's actually a screen capture I grabbed last night of someone's webcam from their front yard that's on the internet, right? So you can visit that and it's perfectly fine. So some open challenges continued, right? Data, huge issue, right? I want you to think about a few questions here, right? Where's all the data you're putting into Facebook and Instagram? Where's that going? Is that being stored safely, right? How about Snapchat? Do folks at Snapchat see the snaps that you're sending, right? Does it get deleted after you send them? Or how about Snap memories? How about that? Ask these kind of questions the next time you use these apps. Bruce Schneier says, if you're not paying for it, then you're the product, right? These companies are selling your data. They that's the only way they're making money. Have you ever seen a reCAPTCHA on the right side? You notice that this information is actually being sold to companies like Waymo and Tesla for automated driving analysis. That's why a lot of them are actually pictures of the street, right? Data breaches has your email being part of a breach, things to kind of be aware of. There's a website called Have I Been Pwned? Visit it and see if your email has been breached. Really important that you don't really important that you kind of know where your password hygiene and stuff is at, right? So briefly want to cover where is the future, what is the future of cybersecurity here? More technology, right? You're going to see a lot of new industries come up, especially because of COVID now, or just talking about it, Dr. Kim, we're going to have a lot of impact there. More intelligence, AI and machine learning is completely changing everything. You need smart people that understand data science and security here. More money, yeah, obviously, right? You're going to have a lot of people investing in this space, right? And I want you to look at Uncle Sam in the corner, top right, but he's not Uncle Sam, he's cybersecurity. We have a severe lack of talent in the cybersecurity space, right? We want smart engineers like you. Please consider going into the cybersecurity field. Cool. How can you get into cybersecurity if you are interested, right? I'm going to go into the slide. I can't iterate this enough. Cyber Dragons, Drexel Cyber Dragons. I was a member of this group. You can see me and a few pictures on the top right. It's a great student organization to get involved in. I highly encourage you to join. The organization is for any student. You can just go in there and learn about cybersecurity if you don't want to get hands-on, right? It's a great again, just please look at their website and see if you're interested. Go to a few talks, right? They go on competitions. If that's interesting to you, be a part of that. Cool. Online resources, capture the flags. Basically, they're games you can play, maybe like 10-15-minute games, so you can like play around with the commands like I was running earlier to get more familiarity with them. I listed a few out here, plenty more if you Google capture the flag cybersecurity online. Courses, Coursera, TCM Security, Udemy. I'm actually going through a few right now, so they're great resources. Absolutely, amazing professors at Drexel ECE. Please don't undervalue your position right now as a Drexel ECE student. Reach out to professors and ask for help, right? Even if they don't have the answers, they'll point you to a professor that does, right? Reach out to them, see where you can get involved. And this is past cybersecurity now. If anything in your field too, your field that interests you. And if all else fails, reach out to me. Here's my email, my personal website. It's not up to date, but I try to keep it up to date. And my LinkedIn. Email me, reach out, see if I can help you with anything, or maybe explain a few concepts better, or maybe point in a better direction. Please reach out. Any questions based on this? I try to blast through the last slides a little bit.
Yeah. Well, first off, I hope all the students will join me in thanking you, because that was amazing. And even though I've been totally pwned now, thank you for showing that and demonstrating. And again, especially, taking some time to put all that together and share your experiences with us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we have some questions here that we can blow through very quickly, I think. So just going in order here. Have you done any hacking that could be considered malicious by another party, like a foreign group? Have you participated in that?
No, and that's intentional, right? You do not want to do, I think I kind of iterated in one of these slides, right? You don't want to do this on a real world system, right? You have to be very careful that you don't bring something down, or someone's company is impacted by this. 10 years ago that would have been kind of okay, but now the laws are very serious. I don't do any type of malicious hacking. Yeah.
Yeah, well, they pay you to protect, right, from that kind of malicious hacking,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Here's one that'll be very useful to everyone. Why is it dangerous to use the same password on different accounts?
That's a great question, right? So imagine if I use the same password for Instagram and my corporate email. If Instagram gets breached, that whoever breached it has your username and your email. They can use it to log into your corporate account now. So you have to make sure that you don't reuse the same password really ever. I recommend password managers like LastPass. I use LastPass, right? They will generate unique passwords for you every time, and you just remember one really difficult master password, and that's it, right? So highly recommend that.
Yeah, +1 on that. Absolutely. Use a password manager. And then somebody earlier in the chat recommended turning on two-factor authentication, right?
Yep.
For your critical services, certainly. And
Exactly.
do you want to explain what two-factor is?
Yes, absolutely. So typically, the security, or how people know who you are, is what you know, what you have, and who you are, right? So two-factor means you want to do more than one of these things. So what you know could be a password, right? Who you are, like biometrics, stuff like that. And what you have is like your phone, right? So you could send a text to come through your phone, or you could have apps like Google MFA or Google Authenticator that will generate a unique number every time you try to log in. So having those twos is really important.
Yeah. All right. Here's a good question.
Yeah.
Is it legal to hack into your own account if you forgot your password?
Well, it depends. If your account is on a third party system, right? Like Instagram, no, that's not legal, right? If it's on your machine, like your laptop, yeah, I think that no one would have issues with that per se. But still, be careful, right? You want to make sure that you understand what you're doing before you go ahead and do that.
Yeah. Awesome. Let's see. What can we use to see if our information is out there or not? I think you already mentioned that Have I Been Pwned?
Yes, website
Right.
called Have I Been Pwned. If you Google it, it'll show up. That's the best. Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Kim. If you go on that website, put your email, it's not extremely exhaustive, but it's pretty exhaustive. It has a list of past breaches, and it'll see if your email is in any one of those. And if it is, you want to be, cautious and change your password right away, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. All right. So Officially, if you have to go, I understand, right? We're at the end of class. Please, on your way out, just thank our speaker, because I think this was an amazing presentation, and always great to hear from, recent ECE graduates who are doing things that are very, very relevant in our world. But we're going to keep going through a couple of these questions. So please do stick around. A couple more that are here. This is a good one. How can you trust white hat hackers? Right.
So yeah, great question. So they're generally hired by the company. So what they usually do is you'll have penetration testing companies, right? Security consultancy companies, and they'll come in and you give them a scope, right? That's very important that you give them a scope of the engagement. You tell them, these are the services I want you to test. These are the things you're allowed to do. Find weaknesses. That's it. If they won't go outside that scope, and that's essentially what makes them white hat hackers, right?
Yep. Let's see. I'm not sure I get this question. So I think it's a reference to CAPTCHAs. So the I'm not a robot button. Is that just a regular button? I don't really quite get that question, but
maybe what they mean to say is the I'm not robot button. The robot can just press that button, and maybe they can log in. So they can press the button, but the picture that comes up, no robot today can, or not that fast enough, can look at the picture and then find all the places that have like crosswalks or traffic lights, right? Only a human being can do that. So that's how they differentiate between you and a robot, because a robot can't do that yet. It's getting there, but not today. Yeah.
Yeah. Yet. I remember most of those things were designed like in the mid 2000s, when those were really hard problems for AIs. But now the AIs are getting so good that you kind of wonder.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, here's a really good question. What skill could we learn right now that would benefit us if we wanted to work in cybersecurity?
The basics, right? And what are the basics? Programming, networking, right? Just the fundamentals to get in are those two. And if you have a good understanding on those, then you can understand a lot of the cybersecurity stuff pretty well, right? A lot of the issues you see in cybersecurity professionals is they want to do hacking right away without really having these core fundamentals. So that's where I recommend you start.
Great. Let's see. Have you had any work with the military for cybersecurity?
No, I've actually been offered one, but I never ended up taking it because so I didn't want to do that. Military gets really weird how they measure metrics and stuff, and that's always been an area I wasn't comfortable in. So personally, I just avoided the military. Yeah.
And sorry, I think this is a follow-up in reference to the previous question about skills. What type of programming would you recommend?
Ooh, if you're not familiar at all, stick to like a high level language like Python just to kind of understand. If you are familiar with Python, if you are familiar with programming concepts in general, go to C and go to assembly. Those two are really useful if you're trying to do like malware type of analysis type of stuff, definitely.
Yeah, and I'll just echo that. I mean, sure, there's lots of sort of web script hacking that you can do, and there's lots of issues there, and the more you understand it, the better. But then there's really low level systems programming, right? Like this is like the Stuxnet kind of thing, like understanding exactly how your CPU and memory are tied together, so you can insert a piece of code right in there, right? And that takes lower level programming. Let's see, another question. How can we trust password managers if they could get hacked?
That's a really good question. You shouldn't, right? These systems aren't really perfect, right? But having a password manager manage your passwords and having random passwords generated beats having multiple places using the same password, and any one of them gets breached, your information is out there, right? So it's basically a risk analysis here. But it is a personal decision. I just highly recommend password managers.
And I would say look at the track records of those companies or the systems. I mean, LastPass has a pretty good track record. 1Password also has a very good track record. And of course, then the system provided ones. I mean, Apple's, and I think Microsoft has a password manager now. It is in their interest to make sure that those things work really, really well.
They have a lot of money invested in that area versus like a local website that might not, right?
Yep. Okay. How about any good tips to make a password brute force resistant?
Um, I guess the typical recommendations, right? Make it long, add characters, don't make it something guessable, don't make it related to your username. Um, and that should usually do it. I usually go for 16 characters at a minimum. That
Yeah.
is pretty difficult these days to crack, but you want to keep adding that number as time goes on. Um,
Yeah. Agreed. Try to think of it not so much as a password, but a passphrase. Right?
yep.
Don't try to pick a word that is in the dictionary, for example. You can chain phrases together that you would remember, but it would be very hard to randomly guess. And then stick in random characters, right? Like the easy trick is to use leet speak, right? To put in like dollar signs for S's and
Yep.
threes for E's and things like that.
Ats for A's. Yep.
Yep, exactly. Oh, here's a forward-looking question. Once robots understand how to beat CAPTCHAs, basically, what will we do? How will we protect our systems from those bots?
That's a really good question. You usually beating a capture means that the Turing test has been solved, and if I don't think that's going to happen. Not the picture one. Solving the Turing test is going to be solved. So you usually find another way to differentiate between a person and a robot, and there's so many different ways to do that. Captures are just one, right? So we're going to roll over to one of those for sure. That's going to be a while though. I think it's probably not going to happen in the next 5 years. I could be wrong, but I don't. Looking at past history, it's not soon. Yeah.
Yep, agree. Let's see. Should you change your passwords often? And if so, how often?
You should change your passwords. I rotate them every 3 months for everything, right?
Mhm.
If it's critical corporate stuff, I even do like a month and a half, 6 weeks is usually how often I do it. If you're just using it for Instagram and things where you're not storing sensitive data, 3 months is fine. That's usually a good time to kind of change it. Oh, this is a good question.
Yeah, this is a good question. Okay, I'll just read it out loud for everyone.
Mm.
There's certain hacking channels that I've seen on YouTube where they publicize vulnerabilities in services and systems, like Sammy Kamkar and his one-tap and USB drive-by. What kind of hacker would they be classified as? What are the legal complications when it comes to publicizing vulnerabilities on the internet? In normal circumstances, videos like this would most likely be taken down, but in Sammy's case, the videos are still up almost as tutorials. Great question. You want
Wow,
to take that?
it's a yeah. So let's like break that down a little bit. What kind of hacker would they be classified as? So Sammy Kamkar is a person that's pretty famous in the hacking world, right? He would be classified. If I have to classify him, he would be a security researcher. Unless he had posted a video with sensitive information, usually they blur that out. But if he had done that, that would get taken down. But he's just doing security research, and I'm pretty sure is a responsible discloser. So he'll tell the people the services are misconfigured. Uh, what are the legal complications when it comes to publicizing vulnerabilities on the internet? Again, responsible disclosure. Things like HackerOne and Synac, or I don't know if I said that right, but these are places where you can responsibly disclose to these companies vulnerabilities, and you're not doing it out of ban, and they will reach out to these vendors via certs or directly to the vendors and help them patch these vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
And
that's a
I'll
great
add,
question.
some companies even have bounties, right, for
Exactly.
security vulnerabilities. So if you report them, right, they will reward you, right? You can actually get prizes for that. So there are security researchers who look for vulnerabilities. I mean, one, to improve systems, but two, because they can get rewarded for that. Yeah, I think I mean, you mentioned this before. I mean, this about disclosure.
Exactly.
If you find a vulnerability and keep it for yourself to profit from, well, okay, there are criminal elements and enterprises that do that, right? But that leads to bad things, right? It leads to really bad things. So
Yeah.
the security community is one that embraces, right, this disclosure of vulnerabilities,
Yeah.
right? That says,
Absolutely.
look, we want to let people know that these things are out there because A, it could, it can hurt people, and B, we want the companies to fix them, right? So as long as you're not putting out code that says, hey, everybody, you can break into anybody's system with this code right now. Generally, it's part of the culture to say, we found this vulnerability. I can prove it to you. I'll do a little demo that shows it, and maybe blur out some of the critical information.
Absolutely. Just to add on to that before we answer the next question.
Yeah.
There's a database called the National Vulnerability Database maintained by US government department that I forget, but NIST, that's the department. They have a database of vulnerabilities that have been responsibly disclosed. They've reached out to the vendors before they post them. The vendor has a patch ready before they disclose it so that people can patch their systems and not be prey to these issues, right? Or prey to these issues.
Awesome.
Cool.
Let's see, last one on the Q&A right now is just, can Python be used to learn hacking?
Absolutely. That's a great programming language to learn hacking, to do data science, and to do a lot of other things. It's really cross platform. So you really have a lot of people like me or security researchers use it for a lot of different things, whether it's data analysis or hacking or defense, right? Like writing applications to help prevent hacking, right? All this stuff is Python is.
And a follow-up, any specific modules?
So
do you have a particular application you're looking for here?
This person is really interested. No, any specific module. So it would have to be Python. You can use modules that would normally be used for networking and other kind of low-level operations to build a hacking tool, right? If you're looking for just a tool to write some quick scripts in, things like Metasploit, things like SQL Map, SQL Ninja, all of these things that Kali Linux, if you Google that, right? These tools are specifically made for hacking, right? If you want to learn about hacking by Python, that's great too, but the modules are there for good reasons. You just have to kind of work them to get the hacking element in there, right?
Yeah. Awesome. Well, we should probably leave it there because we've gone through all the questions. No more open questions. It's a little after 3 o'clock. Thanks to everybody out there who's stuck with us. I mean, this is kind of the after class, after show, but I saw comments go by like, best presentation ever. Like, this was awesome. I think, if you're still here, please, show some gratitude and give them a clap and just some thanks to Dagmawi for joining us for this, because I think that was a fantastic presentation. And I know you're overseas now, but hopefully you will stay connected with Drexel, and I know you're a dragon for life. So
exactly. I was just gonna say that, go Dragons. Absolutely. Yeah. Drexel is a great place, and especially the Drexel ECE is a place that that very fond of and absolutely want to reach out and talk about my field. Yeah.
Well, we're again very grateful to you. I mean, obviously as a department, we're incredibly proud of what you're doing. So thanks for maintaining the connection. Even and even from overseas, that's a really amazing experience.
Yeah.
And we talked about this a little bit earlier, but just taking this amazing opportunity to go to London, and despite the current state of the world, despite the pandemic and everything, it's such a great opportunity to do the work that you're doing.
Yeah, I got on almost all of it because of Drexel, really, right? Like I started in the Star App Lab, right? Like with you, Dr. Kim, and then because I did Star, I got my first co-op, right? And then because I did that, I got my internship in cybersecurity, and then because I did that, the people were so impressed with the work that we did that I got an offer to come to London. So it all starts with Dr. Kim in the App Lab in Drexel. So of course.
Yeah, that's awfully kind of you, but no, I think you would have gotten there on your own anyway. But again, thanks for sharing, your work and your story, and your contact info. I guess I should ask, and obviously this is for students as well. I mean, if you're willing to share those slides, of course, I'm happy to share them with the class. So if you want to, and I'll put a link in the Blackboard website. So if you just make it viewable by everybody, then
okay. Yeah, I will copy it down as a PDF and give you the link to that right after this ends. Awesome. Yeah,
that would be awesome. All right. Well,
going through the commentary before it ends because I missed all of them when I was.
Oh yeah, here you should save that. Does it allow you to save
Can
the
you?
transcript? Yeah, at least I get 3 dots that say save chat. If you don't have it, I'll save it.
Oh, there it is. There it is. Okay, save chat. Awesome.
Yeah. Because yeah, there's some really great messaging going back and forth. I'll be the first to admit I'm not sure I understood all of it.
Yeah, people that definitely been pwned. Yeah, it happens to me too. Just gotta change it.
Yeah, no, I'm sure. I mean, again, if you find yourself on that list, if you're still listening, definitely change your accounts, change your passwords, close down, compromised accounts. Right, there are more methods to deal with this. Right, you don't just have to live with being pwned.
Awesome. Yeah, glad people enjoyed it. This is great. Awesome.
Yeah. Well, I know it's late over there. We can see that it's nighttime, but thank you so much. Really appreciate it. I'll let you know when the video is up on the website. So that, feel free to share that, with anybody. Again, thank you so much. This was awesome.
Awesome. Thank you for having me, Dr. Kim. Till next time we speak, please have a safe, please be safe, and we'll speak soon.